Hello, my name is Mark, and today we're going to be going over some algebra basics, specifically the quadratic formula. Okay, I was inspired to make this video because Pedro Sosa 2817 commented on my video, have any of you guys who took the test recently have to use the quadratic formula to solve problems? Memorizing that formula sounds like a pain in the A. I am working through the IBEW course and they are going over it now and I hate it and would hate to have to memorize that monster formula. Anyway, that is the reason why I am making this video, so you guys could get some algebra basics in. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start the video. What is the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula is a formula used to solve a quadratic equation, which is an equation in this form, in standard form. ax squared plus bx plus c equaling 0. Okay, in my past videos, I didn't put equaling 0 because we were just solving or factoring, not solving, factoring an expression. Now we will be solving the expression or solving the equation. And when we do that, we have to put the equation equaling 0. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac everything over 2a. That is a monster of an equation, but it's okay. With practice, you will memorize this equation for the test. Now, I do want to say, for the IBEW math portion on that test, I don't remember using the quadratic formula, but it's good to know. And this video is not specific to the IBEW. I am making this video universal, so it could be used everywhere, or if you're just someone that wants to know what the quadratic formula is. So, the quadratic formula is used when the equation has an x squared term, okay, right here. These a, b, and c are coefficients. It is set equal to 0, just like I mentioned in the beginning. We are solving the quadratic equation now. And factoring is not easy. So if you remember what factoring is, we would get, for example, the c, and we would multiply two numbers to get c, and those two numbers combined will equal b. Steps to solving using the quadratic formula: put the equation in standard form, which you are very familiar with if you have been watching my videos. Identify a, b, and c coefficients. Substitute these coefficients into the formula, this one right here. Simplify, solve for both answers because we have this plus and minus. We will have two answers, and check your work if needed. Okay, just a little side note. When we are solving, why we have two answers, we have this plus and minus. And that plus and minus is when the line touches or crosses the x-axis, and it will cross twice with a parabola, okay? It would be like this. So we are solving for these right here. Sometimes you will have a parabola that doesn't touch, okay? But we're not going to go over that. I'm not going to go over those definitions either. So right now, we're focusing on equations like this, okay? And we're not going to graph. That is also another video. So let's just go ahead and use this quadratic formula with some questions. So what I have here, solve using the quadratic formula. X squared minus 5x plus 6 equaling 0. Now we can factor it, okay? If you look really quick, we can factor this. what two numbers equal 6 and equal -5 when combined. And just off the top of my head, we have x minus 3 and x minus 2. If there's a test and you have multiple choice questions, boom, you found the answer. You did it. But you did it wrong, because today we are going over the quadratic formula. So what are our coefficients? What does A equal? What does B equal? And what does C equal? Okay. A just equals 1. Okay. There's nothing in front of this X. It's just a 1, and that looks ugly. Let me make it like that. Perfect. And then B equals -5. And then C equals 6. So we have our coefficients. Let's go ahead and plug it into the equation, which is -b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. I have no idea who decided this is the equation, because honestly, this is just like made up. The only math that matters is your bank, okay? The numbers in your bank. Plus money is cool, but multiplying money is way better. But sorry, I went on a tangent there. Because come on now, look at this equation. Like, who decided this? Write the equation down. You don't need to, okay? But I would. For the sake of this video, I'm doing it. But let's say you're an expert and you're just like, you're going to kill it, you know, because you memorized the formula. So I memorized the formula. -5 plus minus, and it's -5. All right. And then you have this -5 squared minus 4, 1, and then C is 6 over 2, 1. I would do this on the test, or if I was solving this on any test, because I memorized the quadratic formula, and I want you to memorize the quadratic formula. So let's just take a moment for you to memorize the quadratic formula. All right, you've memorized the quadratic formula. Let's begin. So let us just solve or simplify. So you have 5 plus minus, and then this is what I would do. I would just go ahead and write on my scratch paper. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to put a line, like a squiggly line, to separate the work, because it's going to get a little messy. So you would have 5 plus minus, because -5 and a negative equals a positive. And then everything over 5, -5 squared is just 25. A -5 times a -5, or a -5 times itself, would equal a positive number. Okay. Minus, what is 4 times 1 times 6? Excuse me. That is 24. And then all this over 2, because 2 times 1 is just that. 5. I forgot the squiggly. Okay, perfect. And then plus minus. And then what is 25 minus 24? That is just 1 over 2. And then I'll go over here. 5 plus minus square root of 1 is just 1 over 2. Okay. And then I would go ahead and I would solve accordingly now. So now I would do 5 plus minus 1 over 2. So this is how it would go like, all right. If I had more room, it would look cooler. But since I don't, I'm going to go ahead and erase here at the top. I know this is a lot, but it's really not a lot. It's just basic math, and the equation is just super long. So 5 plus minus 1 over 2. I would do something like this. I would go like this, right? And I would go 5 plus 1 over 2 equals 6 over 2, equaling, what is 6 divided by 2? That is 3. And then I would go put an arrow like this and do 5 minus 1 over 2 equals 4, right? 5 minus 1, and then right there. And then this equals 4 divided by 2, that equals 2. Then you found your x-intercepts, or you solved for the quadratic formula, which is x equaling 3 and x equaling 2. Okay, we've solved it. And also, in the very beginning, when I factored it, okay, there's an extra step. So you do factor it, right? Remember I factored it and I said it's x minus 3 and x minus 2. What I didn't do and what I didn't show was you have to set this to 0. And then you would solve for each parentheses, whatever this is called. There's a rule when you do this. I don't know what it's called, but I'll just perform it. You have x minus 3 equaling 0. And then that just translates to x minus 3 equals 0 plus 3 plus 3, x equaling 3. And then you would do the same thing for this one right here. X minus 2 equals 0. And then you would just take out the parentheses and then plus 2, and then you get x equals 2. So that's how you solve using factoring. Okay, you could factor it out and then get these two. This binomial, these binomials, right? I think that's the correct way to say it. Binomials, and then solve them, and then get x equaling 3 and x equaling 2. This is using factoring. But today is about the quadratic formula, okay? And this is how you get x equals 3 and x equals 2 using the quadratic formula. All right, so we have solved question number 1, okay? The quadratic formula is especially useful when factoring is not easy or does not work nicely. And that being said, let's go on to question number 2. So question number 2, x squared plus 4x plus 1 equaling 0. Now, remember factoring, right? We mentioned factoring. We can't factor or we can't get two numbers or an integer times an integer and then get 4 when combined, right? Because all you could multiply 1 by is 1. So 1 times 1 equaling 1, and negative 1 times negative 1 equals 1. And then when you combine these, this will just equal 2, and this one will equal negative 2. So we can't use factoring, okay? We must use the quadratic formula. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's first identify our coefficients, which are a equaling 1, b equaling 4, and c equaling 1. All right? And then we go ahead and plug everything in. For the sake of this video, I will write down the equation, but you, since you're an expert now, you don't need to. All right? Negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay? And then we have negative 4 plus minus, what is b squared? Let me just write this squiggly, I'm sorry. Let's write this squiggly line, okay. B squared, we have 4 squared minus 4, then 1, 1. Okay, that's actually really cool. Divided by 2, 1, okay. And then let's just do this squiggly again. And then we get negative 4 plus minus 16 minus 4 times 1 is just 4 divided by 2. Okay. And let's just start erasing. And then we have negative 4 plus minus. Okay. What is 16 minus 4? That equals 12. and then divide by 2. Now with this 12, it's not a perfect square, okay? And what I have to do over here is I have to simplify the square root. So to simplify the square root of 12, I have to figure out what times what will give me a square root, okay? I don't know if I explained that well. But here, I'm going to do my best underneath. So simplifying this square root right here, I'm going to do this in a different color too. So simplifying the square root, you have 12. And this equals, let's say we chose 4 times 3, okay? And then 4 times 3, I'm simplifying. Now we know 4 is a perfect square, so we could take this out of the square root, okay? So then we get 2 square root 3, and that's all we could do, okay? We can't choose, for example, we can't choose 6 and 2, okay? Because we can't, these aren't perfect squares, but 4 is a perfect square and we could simplify. So this is what I mean by simplifying a square root. You may encounter this, okay? And that's also basic algebra. So let's go ahead and remove that and continue on with the equation. And then we have -4 plus minus, and then we have this 3 here, and then, oh, I need room for the 2. So 2 square root 3, because remember, we simplified the square root 4 times 3, and now we have this one right here. And then all divide by 2. And then let's just keep going. And then we get -4. But first we could do something here, okay? Right here, this 2 could be divided, or this 2 could be divided with this -4 and this 2, okay? So we could cancel them out, okay? -4 divided by 2 and also 2 divided by 2. What's going on is just this. And this one, and then this would equal 1, okay? So let me just simplify further, -2, and I won't have a denominator anymore. And then for the sake of this video, I'm going to put a 1 here, okay? But really, don't do that, okay? I don't even want to do that, but I just want to show you where this 1 came from, okay? And then the final answer would actually be x equaling -2 plus minus square root 3. And that's it, okay? If we did what we did last time, remember when I split the equation or split the answer, I would have this x equals -2 plus minus this, right? And I would go over here and go -2 plus square root 3, and then -2 minus square root 3. But we can't do anything to simplify anymore. So these are our final answers. It's just these two. That's it. X equals these. All right. Perfect. And this was an example where we couldn't factor to solve for the quadratic equation. And we needed to use the quadratic formula. All right. Now we're going to go to a little bit of increased difficulty here. And we can, for this equation, we can solve using factoring. And first, I will solve with the quadratic formula. Or actually, I won't even use the factoring. I won't show you factoring. I'm just going to show the quadratic formula. Okay? So let's take a little bit of time to figure out the coefficients. A equals what? A equals 2, right? B equals 7, and C equals, you guessed it, 3. Perfect. We found our coefficients. Now let us plug them in. So we have our formula, which is -b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Okay, now let's just plug everything in. Negative 7 plus minus 7 squared minus 4, 2, and 3 over 2a. And then we get negative 7 plus minus. So from here on, it's just math. Good old math. 7 squared is 49. You know, this is something you should know. 7 times 7 equals 49. Minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 24. Okay. Everything over 2. Oops, I didn't write anything for that a, but I should have put 2. And then 2 times 2 is 4. And I haven't been consistent doing these little squiggly lines. I'm very sorry about that because I know it looks just ugly. Okay, so then squiggly line again. Negative 7 plus minus square root of what is 49 minus 24? That is 25. Okay, everything divided by 4. And let's just keep going on. This is a hard one, but not really. The only thing that really changed is the coefficient in the front is no longer 1, it's a 2. So let's go ahead and solve, simplify more. What is the square root of 25? That is 5, because 5 times 5 equals 25. And then everything over 4. Now we've got almost everything. Now we just have to split it. So I'm going to write everything down like this so you could see what's going on. Okay, so this is the simplified equation. Okay, we're almost done. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line going here for the positive. Okay, positive will be in orange. So we go negative 7 plus 5 divided by 4. This equals negative 2 over 4 equaling negative 1/2. Okay, so we found we solved x for the positive side. Now we're going to do for the negative in purple. And we go negative 7 minus 5 divided by 4 equaling negative 12 divided by 4 equaling negative 3. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. So we found and solved for x. We got negative 1/2 and negative 3. Okay? Perfect. Now, you can use factoring. You can factor. Okay? How much time do I have? 25 minutes. Can I do factoring in like 5 minutes? Yes, I can. I think I can. You have to use the A and C method, which is, remember, the A and C method from one of my videos, the video where I talked about the aptitude test being harder. So the A and C method, again, here are the coefficients. Okay, and then C equaling 3. You have to first multiply A times C, which equals 2 times 3, which equals 6. Now, what two numbers multiplied will equal 6 and combine equals 7, or B. And that is 6 times 1, which equals 6, yes. And then combine 6 plus 1 equals 7. Okay, perfect. We found it. It's just 6 and 1. So we go ahead and we're going to split the equation. I think that's what it's called. But we're going to split this right here, the 7x, into 2. So it's going to be 1x and then plus, and then we'll have this be 6x plus 3 equaling 0. Okay? And now we do this thing right here. And we are going to factor out the least common denominator. I don't know if that's the right term. I'm getting the terms mixed up. But we must do some, I forgot the term. I'm just going to do the math. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on the terms. So what can be taken out from here? What can be taken out from here? And what can be taken out from here? And that would be over here, and x could be taken out. X, and then we have 2x plus 1. And then what could be taken out from here? It's going to be a 3. And then 6x divided by 3 equals 2x. And then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Okay? Then we see these right here. We can combine these together, and then x plus 3, we combine that together. So we get x plus 3 and 2x plus 1. Again, it equals 0. We're not done yet, but these are the factors that we want. We want this right here. And then we solve, right? So x plus 3 equals 0. And then minus 3, x equals minus 3. Perfect, we found 1. Now we go 2x plus 1 equals 0, minus 1, 2x equals negative 1, divided by 2, and we get x equals negative 1/2. And exactly the the same exact answers that we got when we used the quadratic formula. All right, so I proved to you that you could solve using the quadratic formula and by factoring when you can, okay? Because like in question 2, you couldn't factor. You had to use the quadratic formula. So really, all you need to know, okay, we're done now. All you need to know with the quadratic formula is the quadratic formula, okay? Once you find the coefficients, and once you memorize the quadratic formula, everything is just basic math. Make sure to check out the playlist of all of my videos on algebra and functions. And I work through many problems of which you should screenshot and work yourself. Everything that I teach is free. My emails are free. The comment sections are free. Everything that I'm giving you, free. Markyfbaby out. The F is for functions. Bye.